Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Hi, gorgeous path walkers. How are you today? I hope you had a lovely week and weekend since we last spoke. I, for one, had a magnificent weekend. I spent the weekend with a bevy of beauties in the midst of nature, sharing, hugging, laughing, relating, drumming, singing, learning, and connecting at a woman's herbalism conference. It is a conference that I have been going to for years, but this was our first one in person since the COVID times began. Just think, one day we will look back on this time as the great COVID times, a time of uncertainty and fear. Like in all times of great change, our character has been tested. In times like these, they show us who we truly are and who the people around us truly are. Times like these test us. They test us to be our strongest selves who can reach into our stores of compassion and reach out to others in love, or our smallest selves who goes into defense mode and treats everyone like an enemy. We can learn and grow from these times, or we can shrink and become hard-hearted. Times like these are difficult and scary, and yet they offer us many gifts and opportunities that we can accept if we are open enough to receive them. COVID has given us several gifts already. It made space for people who were stressed out from running on the hamster wheel of working long days to stop and stay home. It is changing the harmful culture of many companies by giving power to workers rather than letting them continue to be treated like disposable robots. It has caused many people to reevaluate their lives and focus on what is really important. For some, it has raised awareness about our effect on the planet and how we are stupidly making it uninhabitable for ourselves. For many, it has changed everything. It may have been the only way to make us all stop and be present. Be present. And to be in the world without so many distractions. To appreciate nature and how valuable it is in our lives. To appreciate human connection and how much we need it. To see the societies we have created and see the changes that need to take place for them to become better. If you take a step back, I'm sure you could recognize even more gifts than what I have mentioned here. Every difficulty brings us gifts. Every easy time is followed by difficulties. Hard times are so important because they are the times when we learn the most. They are the times that break us open to spill out the gunk we have been holding on to and give us the opportunity to refill with something better. As the saying goes, if it doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger. And I am a firm believer through a lifetime of experience in that. So what did you learn this time? Who have you become as a result of it? What changes have you made in your life? Woman, after everything that has happened, who are you? Woman, who are you? Take a deep breath and ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? What was the first answer that came to your mind? Was it something that referred to your profession, your age, your race, your gender identification, the stage of life that you're currently in? Now, take whatever your answer was and look at it again. Does your answer identify who you are or what you do in life? Look again. Does it identify who you are or how others see you? Look one more time. Does your answer come from deep inside you or from your surface mind that always gives the same answer without much thought? Woman, most likely you are not who you think you are. Let me put it this way. You are not a machine meant to operate for 12 hours a day to make yourself or someone else wealthy. You are not the number of years you've been on this planet in your current incarnation that puts you in a tiny box of behavioral expectations. You are not an expression of a chromosome. You are not a skin color. You are not a wife. You are not a mother, sister, daughter, girlfriend, caretaker, teacher, peacemaker, bachelorette, friend, or any of the roles that we typically identify with. You are a beautiful, eternal spirit soul that is currently having a human experience. All of the roles that we identify with are simply what we do or how we act in life. We are really much more than who we think or say we are. Go back to the answer that you gave yourself when you asked, "Who am I?" Do you truly believe that that is why you are here in this life? Do you truly believe that it is everything that you were meant for? If the answer is yes, then wonderful, you must be doing great things. If the answer is no, then you should be led to even more questions. Who am I really? What is the purpose of my life? How did I get to where I am now? How can I get to where I'm supposed to be? These are such important questions, but we often get so wrapped up in the mundane cycle of life that we don't think, or at least we think we don't have time to look at them. Other times we avoid looking at them because they seem scary. They are big questions. Questions that we are sometimes told there are no answers to. Questions that we think will turn our lives upside down if we answer them. Questions that will make us doubt what we are doing in life, even though we already doubt what we are doing in life. But don't you think it's worthy of exploration? Let me share a story from my own life. So my father passed away about 12 years ago, and I still consider myself a daddy's girl. I even have a t-shirt to prove it. Once when my father was very ill in the hospital, I went to the arts and crafts store, picked up supplies to make a very bright t-shirt with Daddy's Girl across the front of it. When I walked into his hospital room wearing it, I could see the surprise and joy in his face. I loved my daddy so very much. My father was my main source of unconditional love. He was a kind and gentle man who always put his family first. The night before his body expired, I had the great honor to be alone with him in the hospital. As I stood by his bedside, talking to him, holding his hand and kissing his face and kissing his hand, I was filled with sorrow, but also gratitude. I knew how very special my father was, and I was so incredibly grateful that I got to be his daughter. He was in a medically induced coma, but he knew that I was there. And as I told him that I love him and reassured him that I would be okay, over and over, I kept getting the message that life is too short, life is too short, life is too short, and I cannot waste it. Now, let me also explain that all of my life, even as a little girl, I understood that life was meant to be lived with intention. I knew that we all had a purpose. But when I got this message over and over and over from my daddy, it lit a fire in my heart. I knew I had to change the parts of my life that were detrimental to my life's purpose and the care of my children. I kept asking myself, what the hell was I thinking? How could I do this to myself? Was I out of my mind? In a way, I was. I had let doubt and fear control my life. I had forgotten that I had a purpose in life and that I needed to stay on my path. I thought I could put my path on hold and tough it out until things got better. But that is not living, is it? I was deep in survival mode, working hard to just get through life. But after my daddy left, I finally asked myself, why was I allowing myself to go through hell, and for what? For so many years, I had a list of reasons, but as I stood over my father in that hospital bed, those reasons became pale excuses for not living up to what I was meant to do in life. So from that precious moment at the end of my father's life, when he gave me the gift of waking up, I have made sure that I am my genuine self, living on my own unique path. I have always been a seeker, an explorer of life. If I feel that something is important, I do it. I have had many purposes over the years. Naturally, I have grown and changed. I have lived my life and have always tried to be of service to others. When we have a purpose in life, it gives us direction. It prevents us from just existing on autopilot and wasting precious time. It gives us a sense of who we are. Once we have an idea of who we are, we can begin to act on that idea and live our lives with substance. But for now, let's go back to our fears, the obstacles that we create in our minds that prevent us from living on our path. Often we tell ourselves that if we give up our current job or lifestyle or relationships, that we are taking a big risk and may end up unhappy. Now, take a moment. Look at your current job, lifestyle, and relationships. Are these things making you truly happy? Is there a risk, or what is the risk in giving up something that makes you unhappy? So, are they making you truly happy? If the answer is yes, fantastic. It sounds like you are on your path. If the answer is no, then do you really think that you will be less happy if you give them up? When we give up things that are detrimental to our lives, it can be a challenge in the beginning. We can become even more fearful than we were, and that is normal. But once we are on our path, the universe conspires to help us. Our efforts are recognized and rewarded. We become more confident and happy. As we go further on our path, we gain a sense of clarity. We can see the rest of our path laid out before us. We have clarity about the roles we perform in life. We become better workers, better mothers, sisters, friends, partners, etc. We see the challenges of life as simply obstacles that are waiting to be overcome. We find the freedom of self-determination. We do what is best for ourselves and those around us and no longer follow the misguided directions of society. We use the vehicle of our material bodies to fulfill the purpose of our spirit souls. We are so much more than what our temporary bodies seem to say we are. To be happy in life, we must find out what that is. For example, the role that I identify most with is the role of a mother. I absolutely love being a mother to all 3 of my children who I completely adore. The knowledge that I am so much more than their mother empowers me to be a better mother. It gives me a sense of awe of the responsibility of being a mother and the love that I am capable of giving to my children. It keeps me from shrinking into the expectations of what a mother is supposed to be and allows me the freedom to show up in ways that I need to. By recognizing that I am a spirit soul in a human body, I can see that others are the same. I have more compassion for what they are going through. Like me, they are not just a gender, age, race, profession, or social standing. They are something much more than that, whether they know it or not. Of course, there are times when we still have to deal with people on a mundane platform, and those times can be challenging. But they are less challenging when we see the big picture and understand that we are all acting in roles that are only a semblance of who we truly are. So before this poem, I am adding a disclaimer. It is a poem that I wrote at least 10 years ago, and it contains explicit language that may be offensive for some. So you may want to skip ahead. It is a poem that I was inspired to write by my son. All of my life, people have thought that I was from Ethiopia. Even Ethiopian people sometimes think that I'm from Ethiopia. And one day I was out with my son, and as we were walking on the street, a man approached me and said, "Are you from Ethiopia?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm actually American. I'm from the Midwest." And after that, my son looked at me and said, "Mom, you should just get a t-shirt that says, 'I am not Ethiopian.'" In poetry readings, I would sometimes play with devices and styles of poetry, and this was a fun one for me. It is a poem that a very well-known poet told me would become my signature. And that makes an irreverent smile come across my face. So here it goes. If I were wearing a t-shirt today, my t-shirt would most certainly say, "I know I look Ethiopian, but I'm really just a girl from the Midwest." My t-shirt would say, "I like to drive my V6 engine 280 horsepower vehicle with 20-inch wheels that goes from 0 to 60 in approximately 5.85 seconds, very fast. So please don't get in my way." My t-shirt would say, "I am divorced but not bitter or lonely." My t-shirt would say, "I absolutely adore my 3 children. My t-shirt would say, I'm a yoga instructor, bitches. My t-shirt would say, false religion is a device created by man to control other humans. My t-shirt would say, it is time to change the world. My t-shirt would say, don't make the mistake of mistaking my kindness for weakness. My t-shirt would say that I am deeply, madly in love with the man who makes me happy, yet I feel no desire to possess him. My t-shirt would say, I heart NYC, Manhattan bitches, and not those fucking outer boroughs that you have to take a bridge or tunnel to get to. My t-shirt would say, I am studying shamanism. My t-shirt would say, Starbucks is a corporate whore and I hate them for it, yet I'm still addicted to their caramel macchiatos. My t-shirt would say, Usui Reiki, bitches. My t-shirt would say, unplug from the matrix. If I were wearing a t-shirt, it would say, I call my mother on the phone when I want to curse because nobody can curse better than she. My t-shirt would say, mainstream culture is inane. My t-shirt would say, women who behave like yentas annoy the hell out of me. And men with limp handshakes make me uncomfortable. My t-shirt would say, to my neighbor who lives at the end of my block, my 110-pound chocolate Labrador is not the problem. Your fear is. My t-shirt would say, I heart Paris, Saint-Germain, deep sigh. My t-shirt would say, right now, at this very moment, it is time to change the world. My t-shirt would say, I don't need a license, ring, or overpriced hideous gown to be worn to an overpriced stressful event to prove my love and devotion to you. My t-shirt would say, I'm perimenopausal. In other words, I now care even less about what you think. My t-shirt would say, I'm nobody's victim. My t-shirt would say, meeting your twin flame is not a fairy tale. My t-shirt would say, Loka samasta suki no bhavantu. The t-shirt that I would wear would say, be present. My t-shirt would say, occupy your soul. My t-shirt would say, our system of public schooling is based on the Prussian education/military model to create obedient, subordinate sheeple. And it has worked well. My t-shirt would say, your wanting me to be your girlfriend does not override my wanting you just to be my friend. It would say, I am grateful for everything in my life. My t-shirt would say, I worked my ass off to get here. My t-shirt would say, did I mention how much I adore my 3 children? My t-shirt would say, your cynicism is doing a terrible job of hiding your fear. My t-shirt would say, wake the fuck up. My t-shirt would say, have you any idea what you really put in your body today? Counted the carcinogens? If I were you, I would eat organic and avoid processed food. My t-shirt would say, all you need is love. My t-shirt would say, everything is connected to and affected by everything else. Act accordingly. My t-shirt would say, a perfect human being is full of flaws. Our purpose is to learn and grow. If I were wearing a t-shirt today, my t-shirt would most certainly say, the brand new revolution has already started. Will you be joining me? Woman, how are you showing up in the world? Are you showing up as who you are or who you want to be? Or are you showing up as what people expect you to be? It can be difficult to be who we truly are. There is so much pressure on us to be what other people want us to be. When we don't meet their expectations, sometimes they cannot accept it. People project so much onto other people. Say you meet someone who just mentions that you remind them of their sister. As you get to know them, you begin to realize that they expect you to act or speak in a way that is not true to who you are. You may say things that they misinterpret, leaving you wondering if you were not clear in communicating with them. They may even be surprised by something you say, leaving you to wonder whether they really know you at all. Where is the disconnect here? Why am I not getting through to them, you may ask. Perhaps it is because they are projecting their sister onto you. When you say something to them, rather than hearing what you say, they are hearing, in quotation marks, what they expect you to say, which is based on their past interactions with their sister. If they have a tumultuous relationship with their sister, then they will take what you have said offensively, even if it wasn't meant that way. Or here's another example. Have you ever had a romantic relationship where your partner did things that you could not understand, as if they had turned into a different person than when your relationship first began? Sometimes it is true that people put their best foot forward in the beginning, but once a relationship is established, they show their true selves. Often, though, what has really happened is that we have projected what we wanted onto them rather than seeing who they really are. We see signs and red flags in the beginning, but we overlook them and instead look at the qualities that are congruent with what we want. Eventually, as reality sets in, we realize that they are not who we thought, which translates to what we projected onto them, and we become unhappy. Our expectations are usually the source of unhappiness. And now that's a whole nother podcast episode. But today, we have to realize that it is important to know who we are, what we stand for, what we need to feel happy and secure, to show up in a way that shows who we genuinely are. When we show up as our true selves, we shift the energy of the space. We bring clarity, honesty, calm, and openness to the field of energy we are in. That encourages others to be themselves as well. It creates opportunities for deep interactions because everyone feels comfortable and safe. When we show up in a false state, we bring that energy to the space. The uneasiness that is created by disingenuous energy permeates the field around you. You feel uncomfortable. Those around you feel uncomfortable. Conversations go nowhere. Connections are not made. When we show up as ourselves, we melt the delusive energy in the space and open up a field of possibility. Of course, in order to do that, we must find out who we are. We must find our purpose in life and stay on that path. Now, I know what I'm about to say sounds like some shallow social media post, but we must follow our hearts and live from our souls. The heart is full of expansive wisdom and divine love. We must learn the true nature of the soul, that it is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Once we understand this, our perspective of life changes, and we live from a place of integrity, a place that is full of truth, a place that is full of love, a place that is full of the best intentions for every being in the world. This is who we are at our core, without all the coverings of false ego, distorted truth, and illusory perspectives. Actually, it feels damn good to be ourselves. It is so liberating to show up in our own energy. It frees the mind from the clutches of insecurity or trying to be something that we're not. It allows us to feel like we belong no matter where we are. It allows us to accept others for who they are. It makes our interactions positive and real. It gives space for compassion, for us to give and receive it. It makes life so much easier and so much happier. So show up. Occupy your space with your genuine self. Influence the world around you with the purity of your being. Be your own amazing, beautiful, radiant, empowered self. The world needs your kind of magic. Dear Radhakrishna, please excuse me for mentioning a sacred text in the same podcast episode that I used explicit language in. Of course, you know my heart and my intentions, so I am not so worried. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 13, it says, Dehi noshmin yata dehe, kamaram yovanam jara, tata dehantara praptir, dirastatra namuyati. And the English translation of that Sanskrit verse that I just read. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And now for the purport, which explains what that verse means. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body at every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to get to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the supersoul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. Bhagavad Gita, the most well-known ancient text of India, was written well over 5,000 years ago. It is the only text that was spoken directly by God. The verse I just read is from the second of 18 eye-opening chapters that explains that the soul is eternal and that at the end of our current life, when the body expires, our soul will transmigrate to another body. We are in a cycle of samsara, reincarnation. As anyone who has done past life regression can tell you, when you experience past lives in any way, the intensity of it tells you that it is real. Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield by Krishna to the warrior Arjuna, after Arjuna begins to have serious doubts about his dharma, his duty. For a time, Arjuna forgets who he is and what he should be doing, and asks his close friend, who is acting as his chariot driver, Krishna, to guide him. So, in 700 verses within 18 chapters, Krishna explains the purpose of life and the nature of the soul. The 5 topics contained in Bhagavad Gita are karma, action, kala, time, Ishvara, the controller, jiva, the soul, and prakriti, nature. There are 4 benefits to applying Bhagavad Gita in our lives, and those benefits are opulence, success, influence, and morality. The writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley once said, "The Bhagavad Gita is the most systematic statement of spiritual evolution of endowing value to mankind. It is one of the most clear and comprehensive summaries of perennial philosophy ever revealed. Hence, its enduring nature is subject not only to India, but to all of humanity." The essayist, poet, lecturer, philosopher, and abolitionist Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote in his diary of himself and his friend, the naturalist, essayist, poet, and philosopher Henry David Thoreau, my friend and I owed a magnificent day to the Bhagavad Gita. It was the first of books. It was as if an empire spoke to us. Nothing small or unworthy, but large, serene, consistent, the voice of an old intelligence which in another age and climate had pondered and thus disposed of the same questions which exercise us. Both men highly valued and learned from the Gita. Of course, there is the famous story of physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, who upon seeing the first successful atomic bomb detonation said that at that moment, a few people laughed, a few people cried, most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty and, to impress him, takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And as you may know, after the bombing of Japan, Oppenheimer and other physicists wanted controls on nuclear weapons. They realized the great possibility of devastation from them in the future. Oppenheimer then opposed the creation of the hydrogen bomb, which got him fired from his job with the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission and blacklisted. Bhagavad Gita is a timeless classic and guide to life that is often read by leaders in corporations and governments. Most importantly, it is read by spiritualists of every faith who are looking for direction. It is a priceless treasure with a sometimes surprising philosophy to those who do not understand the complexity of what it teaches. But when we study Bhagavad Gita, so many of our questions about life are answered. We expand our consciousness and gain a wider view of life. We find the answers we need and go on to live more meaningful lives. So I got a request. I got another request from a listener. Hooray! And this listener requested that I do more tarot readings on the podcast. I haven't done one, I think, since the very first episode of this podcast of Woman on Her Path. So I'm just shuffling and preparing the cards here. And this time, I think I will do a 9-card spread. I am working with cards that I actually have become very fond of. I got these cards in Sedona, Arizona. So I'm actually using these cards today in honor of my daughter who just returned from Sedona, Arizona. So yeah, I got these cards at a shop in Sedona on the main. I'm sorry, I'm distracted because I'm looking at the cards as I'm speaking. I got them on, I believe it's Route 179, that main drag that takes you to many little to the little shopping areas. I believe this shop was called Bohemian Dreamer. And she had some very lovely cards there, as well as many, many other cool things. And actually, I just remembered a funny story about when I was there. After I shopped there and picked up these cards, I went to a Mexican restaurant that's next door, and I believe it's called Javelina cantina, if I'm not mistaken. And I came out of the restaurant and it was literally the best Mexican food I've had in a very, very, very long time. There is nothing like homemade Mexican food or authentic Mexican food. And this place was phenomenal. Actually, it was outstanding. And so I came out of the restaurant, and as I was coming out, these two men were pulling up in a truck, and one of them, the driver, leaned out of the window and said, "Excuse me, but did you just eat at this restaurant?" And I said, "Yes, I did. I just ate there. And I am encouraging you to eat there as well because the food is outstanding." And he looked at me and he said, I don't mean to be inappropriate. I'm not trying to flirt with you, but you are outstanding. And I thought that was so funny. That was so cute. And then he goes on to give me all kinds of compliments. And he says, you just made me think of that song. Remember that song? Outstanding. I'm going to play it for you. And so I just kind of laughed and walked over and got in my own car. And just as I started my car, he starts blasting the song Outstanding by the Gap Band. So if you are not familiar with that song, I will put a link to the song in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes because it is a nice song. And I sat in my car, he sat in his car, and we just listened to the song, and then I left. So let's get to this reading. As I said, I did a 9-card spread. If you happen to hear my son laughing in the background, please that's just part of recording a podcast. But what I was going to say, if you happened to hear my first reading of tarot cards on the podcast, you will know that I have been reading them for a very, very, very long time. And I do not read them the way the books tell you to read them. When you develop a relationship with tarot cards, they speak. Oh, now my neighbor's locking their car. The horn just beeped. The cards speak to you directly. And so when you're reading the cards, the same card may say different things to you in different readings. The cards do not always have the same reading. So as I was shuffling the cards, I set out an intention to give us a reading for all of us, for myself and everyone who's listening. Give us a reading for the next week until the next episode of Woman on Her Path is available. So here we go. So we're starting. Oh, look at this. Our first card here is the High Priestess. And what she is telling me in this reading is that, she's beautiful, actually. She has a very peaceful look on her face. And she's also very thoughtful. And there's also a very sensual look on her face. And for me, what that's saying in this moment is that we are going to go deep within ourselves and really be contemplative about many things in our lives regarding ourselves. And we are also going to appreciate our own energy within this next week. We're going to appreciate it because we're going deep within it and we're actually feeling ourselves, our own energy, and that sense of deep satisfaction that it gives to us. The second card that I'm seeing here is the Five of Swords, and I love the way that they're laid out, the configuration. I wish you could see them. The way that they're laid out on this particular card from this particular deck, because they're, how can I explain it? They're, to me, they're saying they're presenting a complete picture. So again, it's filling me with this sense of completion, this sense of knowing who we are after working hard to get there. So connecting with the first card that I read, it is telling us that, again, we will be successful. All of the work that we have done, all of the inner work that we have done is presenting us with a complete picture of who we are. The next card that shows up is the King of Pentacles. In this moment, this card is telling us about our obstacles. Obstacles that will distract us from our path. So we need to be wary of those obstacles. We need to be alert. We need to be on our game, on our toes, so that we are not distracted by shiny things, I'm looking at his armor, by shiny things or things that may look like something in the beginning, but are actually something else. So we need to be careful of that. So this row of cards that I'm looking at, these 3 cards, are what we are not aware of. These 3 cards are in the subconscious. So we're not fully aware of them yet, but they will come to be. Now, the things that we are aware of will begin with the 7 of Pentacles. And looking at this card right now, it's telling me that this is a magical card. We are very shortly entering into a space of being aware of magic around us, being aware of the energy of positive change, being aware of the energy of, hold on, let me feel into it. Being aware of the energy of not only positive change, but big transformation that, if we're open to, can result in big, wonderful transformation. Now, the next card that comes to us that we will very shortly, I'm sensing in the next couple of days, we will be aware of, is the Knight of Wands. And this is where we're stepping into our own magic, our own power. It is the power, this card is representing the power that we have honed, that we have gathered for ourselves. And right now we are aware of some of the things that we've gathered. We know how our lives have changed in the last few years, and we're aware of that power that we have kind of collected for ourselves. And so we are going to move into a place. We're aware that we're moving into a place of using that power. Now, the next card that comes up, again, this is what we are aware of now, or we will be aware within the next few hours or so, is the Hanged Man. This is one of my favorite cards. I love the Hanged Man. You will hear all kinds of interpretations of this card. For me, it usually means new beginnings in a very special way. But right now, what this card is telling me is that, yes, new beginnings are coming, but they're coming in a joyful way. They're coming in a way that again, is showing us that we will have our faculties, our faculties will be under our control, and we will also become playful. So within the space of being in our own power, we will be so secure in using our own power that we will become playful. Ooh, that sounds like a fun week. Okay, and so the next row of cards, this is the row that is telling us what is the forces around us that are helping us. They're the forces that are helping us and are bringing energy to help us on our paths and to kind of, bring clarity to our lives. So the first of these is the Three of Cups. So that is saying to me in this reading, in this moment, the Three of Cups is saying that there will be things that we will gain in the next week that are, they are external things that will be, that will add to our power. And so they can be things like money. They can be things like, influence. What else is coming out of this? There's one more thing. Money, influence, and, it's not coming clearly. Come on, I'm waiting. Money, influence. Oh, and it's a specific kind of power, but it's not coming through. It's not coming through quickly. Hold on, bear with me here. Sometimes this happens. There's an airplane flying through. Now I'm sure you can hear that. Maybe it's bringing me this message. It's a certain kind of power. What is it? Okay, so it's money, influence, and the power of others, the power that comes from others. So it's someone lending us a hand, someone to step in and help us on our journey. And it's always good to have someone else who can help us, like a teacher, a guide, a good friend, or a benefactor. So that's beautiful. That's what we have that will step in that we're not fully aware of yet. Next is the Nine of Swords. Wow. And oh gosh, I'm getting such an interesting feeling from this card. This card is telling me in the moment that, it's okay. It's telling me that we have lots of guides, spirit guides, who will be helping us in the next week as well. They will be coming to us and helping to protect us, helping to show us the path, the right way that we need to go. So please be open to that. In the coming week. Be open to that divine guidance. Next, and our final card is the Two of Cups. And what I'm seeing very strongly in this card is that we will be successful, and we will have one other person in particular who is going to kind of become our partner going forward, our partner throughout the week. And that can be a partner in the physical world, again, a friend, a business partner, perhaps a spouse or a lover. Who is going to help us. Or in this case, it can also be a partner in the spiritual world. So it's not just, our spirit guides that I just spoke of. There is one guide in particular who will show up and help us. So again, be open to that. Be open to receiving that help from someone in particular, because I'm also getting that Nine of Swords, all of those guides are not going to be so apparent to us, but this one guide in particular will be very apparent to us. So that is our tarot reading for this episode. I hope you enjoyed that reading. Feel free to listen to it as often as you like. I'm sorry through all the stuttering and all of that, but that's just the way I read. Sometimes things come to me very quickly, and I have to decipher them very quickly. So thank you for joining me on this episode. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed that reading, and, take it with an open mind and an open heart, because the cards never lie. She is always honest and true, whether we want to hear it or believe it. So, gorgeous pathwalkers, somehow we have done it again. We have come to the end of another episode of Woman on Her Path. I hope you found something that you can take with you as you go farther on your path. Our paths can take us in very unexpected directions, but our job is to be open to following the energy that is presented to us. There are forces much greater than us that know exactly what they are doing. If we work with them instead of in spite of them, then our paths are much, much smoother. See you next week. Mwah! Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.